Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
And away we go on a Friday. It is the Vegas Take coming very live, 101.5 FM, 720 AM. K-Dawn, getting you set to roll into the weekend. So many topics to hit today. I'm Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro, J.D. Sharp on the way. A number of great guests also, as we have a very busy weekend on tap in the world of sports, entertainment, and, of course, all the news that has transpired, particularly over the past 48 hours. Joining us on the show today, of course, we'll have John Schaefer later to do the news. We'll also talk about the Barack Obama story that is just heating up the internet regarding the woke cancel culture broadcast. Also, we have great guests from Mr. X, who's going to join us later on in the show. He's going to talk a little bit about the situation with Hollywood and whether or not they're giving President Trump enough credit for killing the ISIS leader last week. Also, we'll talk about Kamala Harris as well, too. She is apparently the flavor that they like in Hollywood when it comes to the presidential candidates. So we'll get into that with Mr. X as well, too. Frank Rudy Cooper, he is a criminal law professor at UNLV. He's going to join us live in studio. We're going to talk about that story we talked about a little bit earlier in the week, where we discussed the story of the student who killed himself after years of verbal abuse from his girlfriend, what type of liability he may have. And we want to get your take on that as well, too. The phone line is 702-257-5396 is the phone line. You can also catch us streaming live on YouTube, so you can see our faces for radio, myself, as well as J.D. Sharp. So a lot to get to. In the 11 o'clock hour, we'll be hitting big-time sports action for the weekend. Of course, a big fight weekend here in Vegas. And we'll have also Ken Thompson, the host of Sports X Radio right here on KDWN. He's going to join us. Of course, he does a great show centered around handicapping. So all the action, whether it's college football as well as the NFL, of course, NBA and NHL action over the weekend. Of course, J.D. Sharp, who does this show down on Fridays down at the Palazzo at Legacy Stadium himself, along with Ken Thompson. They break down every game. So we're going to get into that with both J.D. and Ken coming up later on in the show. So J.D. Sharp joining us live in the studio. J.D., what's going on?
I'm just hanging out to see you win. Just loving life on a Friday.
Why wouldn't you? And, of course, it was Halloween last night.
It was.
And did you get a chance to partake it with your lovely daughter as well as your wife? Get a chance to get out and maybe snag some candy?
I went trick-or-treating for approximately, I would say probably 45 minutes. It was definitely, it kind of reminded me of back home. Yeah. There was maybe 60 or 70 kids in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It was actually interesting. Some parents were outside, and there was a table for candy. There was a table for wine, and they were offering up wine to parents, which I've never actually heard of before. So that was interesting. It was definitely a different experience. I did not expect that type of experience in Las Vegas. It was more of a community atmosphere, and I barely know any of my neighbors, but I met a lot of them last night, so that was kind of cool.
And it was pretty nice too in my neighborhood because it's kind of like an older neighborhood. I mean, older meaning like the houses are from like the 80s and 90s, but still it was kind of a community feel. So, and my roommates, they're like hardcore into the Halloween thing. So they were dressed up to the nines, and we had the massive bucket out on the porch, and it was just it was a festive atmosphere until we partaked in some adult activity. We ended up running downtown a little bit and bouncing around. And I'll tell you, JD, downtown last night, it was wild. There was some strange and interesting characters, to say the least, strolling around Fremont Street. We bounced around a couple of spots.
You
some
went to
pre-gaming
Fremont
spots
Street?
before. We went to Fremont Street, and it was.
I'm sure that was obscene.
They were out in force, my friend. It was interesting, to say the least. So, hope everybody had a safe and happy Halloween, and everything's okay today. We're also going to have Brian Salmon also later on the show, JD. He's going to talk about the fights, and we'll get into him with a little bit of Raiders and NFL stuff too also. So big time slate for the Vegas Take today. So once again, the phone number is 702-257-5396. Now, the big news story yesterday, of course, was the impeachment vote and the basically the vote to move forward with a process that's going to take place that's going to be more transparent, more, out front, more public. And it's interesting because back in 1998, the last time there was an impeachment inquiry into President Bill Clinton, it was a little bit different. There was 31 Democrats in that actual vote that sided with Republicans. And to be honest with you, the White House was kind of happy that it was only 31. There could have been even more Democrats that were going to, side with the Republicans. But I'm getting to a larger point here because we're in 2019, and it is super polarizing, JD, when we talk about Washington, D.C., and the parties involved and people. I mean, it is just all-out war right now as far as, people, just staying on their side. And so on the vote yesterday, not a single House Republican, by the way, joined Democrats in supporting that resolution outlining the parameters for the next stage of impeachment proceedings.
So what are your thoughts on that, Chris?
So I think it's very telling. I think we're in a situation now where, and by the way, the Republicans have been demanding such a vote for weeks. So it's something that they've been able to partake in now, and we're going to see, very public hearings and very public, basically testimony from a lot of the same people that have already testified. And this division, JD, I'm telling you, you're talking about a 232 to 196 vote. And it makes clear, and look, and this was described by the New York Times like this, as if both sides are pulling even further apart as they dig in deeper on the righteousness of their respective causes. That's the way it was described. Now, here's the deal. Democrats,
I don't usually agree with the New York Times very often,
yes.
But I agree with that assessment.
That's assessment right there. That tells you a lot,
I think
doesn't it?
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
It does. It tells you where we are in this country right now when it comes to people taking sides and people, being steadfast in what direction they want this to go. And let me kind of break it down for you. I think it's like this. Democrats, are claiming that look, it's their constitutional duty to hold President Trump, who they believe is a lawless president, to account. And I think even though everybody understands that he's probably not going to be removed from office, it's going to be a lot of people, like myself included, who is, not necessarily a liberal. I am a more center-left, but I am a never-Trumper, right? Yet I still understand the reality. I think that there's a very good possibility it's going to end up just like it did with President Clinton, where he is impeached, but when it comes to the Senate, he's never going to be convicted and he's never going to be taken out of office. But I just think it's the principle of it, right? I think it's, look, you got to have some accountability when it comes to the President of the United States. Call me crazy, all right? But that's the Democrats' view. The Democrats are like, look, we got to hold this guy, to account. Meanwhile, you got the Republicans, and correct me if I'm wrong, and hit us up on the phone line, 702-257-5396. The Republican stance is this. The Republicans are like, look, we're going to back our guy, and he's being persecuted for political gain. And this is all, there's words being used like hoax, witch hunt, words that, you would not necessarily describe a process like this. So, to me, yes, JD, you asked the question, what do I think about this? I think that it is extremely polarizing. Obviously, it's not something that's good for the country, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? I mean, you just can't, we've been talking about it for 3 years. Is he someone who has been held accountable? Is he someone, JD, that can walk in the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody, and get away with it? Is the president above the law?
Oh, I think that he has some extremist followers, and a couple call into the show on a consistent basis. One is named Brady, and I'll call him out, which I have no problem doing. He has extremist followers, but so does every president ever, and that's not going to change. And there's extremist followers on the left side and the right side. I'm sure Nancy Pelosi has some severely extremist followers. I'm sure Hillary Clinton had some beyond severely extremist followers, but it does show that there is. I mean, is this an unprecedented amount of division, do you think, Chris?
I think there is no question about it.
And I think,
it starts at the top. It's because of Trump. It's because of Donald Trump. He's a guy who
231 to. I mean, and you're talking the Republicans that are even in reds or in blue states.
Yeah.
They all voted no. Every single one of them in the House.
And the two, by the way, Democrats who voted against proceeding with this impeachment inquiry are in Trump states. Okay, so their districts are in Trump states where Trump won.
Right. So
you can kind of, you can read between the lines, or you can just read through the lines as to why that was. So, look, Representative Peter King also commented on this. He says, look, it shows the bases are controlling both parties with this vote and the way this went down. And Peter King was a guy, by the way, who ended up voting against Clinton's impeachment back in 1998. And so, I mean, he has some credibility when it comes to these types of issues. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro along with J.D. Sharp on the Vegas Take on your Friday. Let's go out to the phone lines, get some opinions and outlook on this. Bruce joins us now here on the phone lines. Bruce, we appreciate the phone call. How are you?
What's up, Bruce?
Hey, Chris, J.D., just real quick, man. It's kind of a breath of fresh air with you on there, Chris. I mean, God bless Brian. And I'm not going to say I'm Republican or Democrat. JD's heard me before. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I was a journeyman electrician for 28 years. Here's what matters to our country, Chris, JD, okay? What matters is you have the opportunity for advancement. So that means good job opportunities, obviously. Our kids matter. Our education matters. Taking care of our elderly citizens that worked all their lives matter. Obviously, being a veteran, veterans matter. Everybody matters that's a legal U.S. citizen, Chris. And I tell Brian this about 3 times. No president ever changed my life. And I know J.D. is so level-headed. I love listening to him. Brian always cuts him off, won't let him finish his thoughts. You have to let J.D. say, more paragraphs than I've heard since I've been listening to these guys, Chris.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Bruce. Look,
thanks for the call, Bruce.
B-Shap is our guy. He's the guy, in my opinion, he's a tremendous radio host. Does he push buttons sometimes? Does he sometimes drop names on people that, I wouldn't necessarily do? Yeah, he does. That's his personality. But look, I'm not going to sit here and impede Brian. Brian's, I think the guy, he has his convictions. He has his opinions. They're very strong opinions. And let's be honest out there, people, okay? There's a lot of listeners out there that would disagree with the standpoint of Brian and myself when it comes to either ideology or opinions on President Trump, right? Am I wrong on that, JD?
Well, particularly on this particular
on this topic,
on this station. On KDWN, considering Sean Hannity follows us and Mark Levin follows him.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, obviously, a lot of our listenership disagree with you and Brian, and it's good that Brian and I disagree. I think it adds a nice dynamic. For the conversation on a consistent basis, and a lot of the times when I get cut off, it's because we have time constraints and there's specific idiosyncrasies within the radio business that we have to adhere to.
702-257-5396 is the phone number. You're tuned to the Vegas Take on your Friday. I am Chris Wynn, along with J.D. Sharp. Let's head on out to the phone lines, and we'll join J.D., who's here on the phone. J.D., how's your Friday going? Thanks for the call.
What's up, J.D.?
Hello, J.D. Hello, Chris. It couldn't be any better. Thank you. I have to agree and disagree with you a little bit, Chris, what you're talking about, the impeachment. I think the whole program is like some Congress people from the Democratic Party says we have to impeach him because he is going to get reelected if we don't.
Right, I agree.
And I believe this whole impeachment is to damage his chances for reelection. In regard to the mentioning of, I hope he's okay, your co-host, J.D., he won't accept facts. That's his biggest problem. He won't check facts when people bring them to you, and he's also rude to you. He controls the show. He controls the buttons, and he won't even let you talk sometimes. He has a propensity to only want to hear his own words. Whenever you say something for a sentence or two, he interrupts so many times, and you are the quiet type. You're respectful, and you just sit there and listen most of the time. And when you do have something to say, I want to hear it. And I wish that little loudmouth would shut up and let you talk.
All right, look, JD, we don't want to get into a whole bashing, Brian Shapiro here on the show.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking about the inquiry.
I prefer JD respond to what I said.
Yeah, all right.
Again,
JD's running the show again.
Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. I don't want to turn this into a Brian Shapiro roast, though. That's not my MO. But again, thank you. But I appreciate the kind words, JD.
When you do talk, I wish he would not interrupt you, JD.
And that's fair.
All right, so JD, you have to get your thoughts though on this impeachment inquiry. Do you think that this is something that the polarization in America? What can we do to fix it? Do you think there is a possibility that we can fix it when it comes to both sides just being stalwart in their convictions here?
After President Trump gets reelected, he has to go on national TV or during his when the speech that you make. I can't think of the term of it now. It's an inauguration. Right. He has to say, "I am sorry for some of the things I've done and said, and I am not going to do them anymore. I am going to extend an olive branch right here today to the other side. I commit to working with everyone in the Democratic Party. If they will meet me halfway on every issue that we have in front of us, I will meet them halfway. It is time to rebuild, time to reunite. It is time to put the pieces of this country back together again." If he makes a magnanimous statement like that, I think he has put the ball in their court, and the Democrats either have to respond as statesmen or then totally we lose the country.
And I think that he still has time to kind of take his foot off the gas, like we discussed with Avenatti a couple of times. But let's be honest, President Trump is going to be 74 years old. If he continues at this torrid pace of attacking everybody who disagrees with him, the guy's going to die. I mean,
the stress level is going to go through the roof, right? It already should have been gone through the roof for 3 years.
After he gets reelected, by the time he's 77 or 70, and I think he will get reelected, but by the time he's 77 or 78, I mean, he's just not gonna. He's gonna die if he keeps doing what he's doing. If he keeps being so aggressive towards anyone who disagrees with him.
Correct me if I'm wrong, JD, but did JD the caller say that the President Trump needs to apologize or say that he's sorry for some things that he said and some things that he did in his speech once he gets reelected? I think he just did say that it made the comments that President Trump was going to apologize about something.
He did, which coming from him is kind of a surprise. But thanks for the call, JD. I appreciate it.
702-257-5396 is the number. We want you to chime in on these impeachment inquiries. It's going forward. It's going to be more public. We're going to have these witnesses testifying in public so that the American people can actually hear what they have to say. Frank joins us now on the phone lines. Frank, we appreciate the call. How are you?
What's up, Frank?
Well, first of all, you have my compliments. You made me chuckle, which, humor and laughter is very good for the heart and the soul. But Chris, you, Brian, and Doug, and that entire ilk are aligned straight. Chris, did you ever see the movie The Killing Fields? I think it got nominated or got a couple of Oscars.
I may have seen it, but I don't remember it. So it obviously wasn't ingrained in my mind.
A line I'll never forget in the movie was, "This is the year zero," and my example to that is, why am I in jail today? I killed my wife yesterday. I didn't do anything today. Let me quickly go over Bubba Clinton, the impeached, disbarred, and proven pedophile. Whether you agree or not, that was nothing, and you were right. But what he got, he was indicted on 11 felonies. But the worst thing to the last of the 3rd Armored Division soldier was, he gave not one but 2 nuclear reactors and $10 billion to North Korea for their electrical infrastructure. Not to mention, China now has ports in Long Beach, all up and down the West Coast. They have the Panama Canal, which we never should have given away. President Hussein, those drones that hit Saudi Arabia, they were little minis of what President Hussein landed, a brand new one. It just landed in Iraq, right in the desert. Any decent general worth his salt was blow that son of a gun up, but it didn't. We just handed it. I know what treason is, and this. Whatever these impeachment charges are against Trump, pale in comparison. Oh, one more thing on the Clinton mafia hit. Chris, may I ask how old you are?
I'm 49 years old. And by the way, you're running down the list about Bubba, right? Okay, and we know Slick Willie. We know that there was, some digression, no question, in this man's life. But if it doesn't matter, let me ask you this question, okay? What if Bill Clinton was a mass murderer, a serial rapist, if Hillary Clinton was someone who just, offed thousands of people, what does that have to do with Donald Trump and the charges that have been brought about him regarding the Ukrainian government to investigate a former vice president, Joe Biden, and his son? No matter what Bill Clinton did and what Hillary has allegedly done, what does that have to do with Donald Trump? It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. So I don't understand this argument that you want to go back 20. By the way, Bill Clinton has been president for 20 years. Last time I checked, right? So I don't really.
In all fairness, Bill Clinton, if he wasn't impeached for doing what he did with Monica Lewinsky from a position of power, he was actually a really, really good president. He was probably the most bipartisan president in the last 30 or 40 years. A lot was done during his presidency because he just kind of he kind of stood back and let the two parties work things out among themselves. And this is coming from a Republican making that statement.
Yeah, and all due respect, look, you made a lot of salacious, allegations there regarding Bill Clinton, and whether or not they're true, it hasn't been proven whatsoever that there's any leniency or that there's any, credence to any of those. So 257-5396 is the phone number, 702. On the other side, I'm going to take a quick break and come back, and we're going to keep talking about this as far as the impeachment inquiries and the public forum moving forward. I'm Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro, along with J.D. Sharp. You're tuned to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. You're tuned to the Vegas Take. I'm Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro, along with J.D. Sharp. In the top of the show, we were talking about the impeachment inquiry, right, and the formal process that's going forward, an opportunity to have, I guess it's fair to say, more transparency, right? We're going to actually be able to see and hear these people. It's not going to be behind closed doors, okay? So there's not going to be able to be any claims by Republicans, Democrats, anybody, that it's not a transparent process going forward when it comes to this impeachment process. So let's go back out to the phone lines. We have some callers waiting online that want to chime in. Let's go out to Steven. Steven, thank you very much for calling the Vegas Take. How are you today?
What's up, Steven?
Yes, hello, JD, and thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I recall about 35 years ago when I graduated from law school and came to Las Vegas, started getting introduced to talk radio, which was a lot different 35 years ago, but KDON was definitely the leader. I soon came across a documentary called Endgame, Endgame. It's on the whole page. If you do a search, folks, I recommend it highly. It shows you the swamps involvement in Mao's China, in Stalin's Soviet Union, and Hitler's Nazi Germany. Also shows you how these people have decided that they don't want this country around anymore. That's why they ship so much of our money over to China and built them up in an intentional and deliberate attempt to destroy your country, folks. And I've always thought that talk radio, if this country can be saved, and if freedom dies here, it dies everywhere. If it can be saved, it will be through talk radio. And what's important on talk radio? Well, J.D. knows it. Frank knows it. Many of the callers that I've heard called idiots on this program, unfortunately, in the past, and I hope it's the past, when they're called idiots, it's because somebody disagrees with them, and that is not recognizing the number one First Amendment, why there's a constitutional republic, and that is freedom of speech. Once we start arresting people, not just hollering and screaming at them and telling them they're idiots, but having people arrested for what they say, then we're heading the wrong way. And that brings me to the impeachment inquiry. Nancy says that everybody's subject to the rule of law and has to obey the law. And Nancy, I agree with you totally. I want Joe Biden and his son to face a jury and explain to them. I've seen Joe's clip where he says that he wanted the prosecuting attorney fired. Otherwise,
Stephen, look, there already has been. Look, it's already been handled when it comes to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, whether or not there was wrongdoing there. It's already been
handled.
It's already been established that there hasn't been that. Now you bring up Nancy Pelosi
by the swamp.
Yes, but the reason
hasn't been handled
but
in a court of law.
There's not an impeachment. The impeachment inquiry, Stephen, is about President Trump. It's not about Joe Biden. It's not about Hunter Biden. It's about the president of the United States, the current president. Okay, so I mean, you're all due respect. You're bringing up something.
Why Trump exists?
Trump exists for a number of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why Trump exists.
Obama existed because of George Bush. George Bush existed because of Bill Clinton. The American people are easily swayed.
That's a very you're looking at it very simplistically, though, Stephen. There's a number of reasons why
you dump fluoride in the water, you take away people's IQs, and they're easily led. Now, I don't know how many people will watch that video. I hope a lot.
Yeah.
End the game. The movie. End the game. The movie. Thank you.
Stephen, we appreciate the
thanks
call.
for the call,
Look,
Stephen.
I mean, he hit on a number of topics there. He started off with talking about talk radio, JD.
Yeah, talk
and
radio.
I would argue this. Talk radio.
Influencing the country.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much influence it has. What talk radio is, it's an opportunity. It's a forum, right, JD? For people to express their opinions, for people to debate, for people to talk about topics.
Well,
by the way, for people to present facts.
That's true.
Okay.
Now, and the thing about talk radio, and I agree with him to an extent, because when you listen to a music station, and some of these music stations are extremely highly rated, but you already know the songs. You know, it's in your subconscious. When you listen to talk radio, when you listen to me, when you listen to you,
yes,
you have to listen to what we say and then form your own opinions. And, relate those to your life. And to do that, you have to be attentive. You have to actually be actively listening to what we're saying. And that's what really separates talk radio from any other form of radio. And that's typically my pitch to advertisers,
right,
to be honest with you, because our listeners are much more attentive than a different station. Because, again, if you're listening to a song, and I'm not faulting any other music station, but when you listen to a song, you typically know that song. And it's in the back of your head. It doesn't require a lot of thought. You're on autopilot. When you listen to me and you and Brian and whoever else we have on the show,
right,
you're not on autopilot. And that's why talk radio is so awesome.
702-257-5396 is the phone number on your Friday. It is the Vegas Take. Chris Wynn, J.D. Sharp, live in studio. Brady joins us now live on the show. Brady, what's going on?
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Brian's favorite idiot. I've probably been called that more than anybody on this show.
I would say that's probably true.
Well, Brady, hey, let's be honest, though, Brady. You get him fired up. You do push buttons. You're not afraid to be controversial at times.
And I appreciate your passion.
Yes.
Well, what I wanted to bring up, though, I mean, you got to go back to when Barack Obama was there, and he had Joe Biden as his point man over in the Ukraine saying, I'm not going to give you guys any funding for your military, or if you don't do this, and this. And Biden went over there and said, okay, we got this prosecutor fired. Son of a B, I got him fired. Well, that is the definition of quid pro quo, whatever how you say that.
But Brady, it had nothing to do with Hunter Biden, though.
Quid pro quo.
It wasn't about Hunter Biden. It was about the corruption over there that we were concerned about. It wasn't about Hunter. See, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I can just ask you flat out, Brady. Why is there no criminal charges been pressed against Joe Biden or Hunter Biden? Why has there been no criminal charges whatsoever? Why has there been nothing?
He's one of the deep state. He's there. And just like what happened yesterday, you guys aren't even mentioning the spy that was revealed yesterday, who the whistleblower was. It was Eric Charmelli. And guess who he worked for? Barack Obama, James Clapper, Brennan, and good old Joe Biden. So this is going to get exposed real quick. You guys, the Democrats, you can hide behind the curtains all you want, but Mr. Durham got your number. This stuff is going to get exposed by Christmas, and there's going to be a lot of people going to jail.
I don't know about hiding behind curtains. I don't know what you mean by that. There's going to be more exposure now. There's going to be more transparency. There's going to be more, opportunity for us to find the truth. I think anybody that's reasonable and rational, Brady, wants to know the truth. We don't care about, conspiracy theories or what you think some person should go to jail for or what you think that should have happened, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's about the truth coming out, and it's about accountability.
One thing I would have to say is you keep bringing up, well, they haven't gone to jail.
No.
There's one thing in life. You listen 1 second, though. Just because people haven't gone to jail doesn't mean there wasn't a crime committed. Remember that.
Well,
and there's been many crimes committed, from Barack Obama to the Clinton Foundation to Clapper to Comey to Brennan, the FBI, the CIA, the deep state. the witch hunt that's going on right now, and we're just sick of it. We are damn sick of what's going on. And if you keep it up, there's going to be a civil war. Mark my words.
Well, I understand you because you're a Trump supporter that you're gonna call it things like a hoax and a witch hunt, and I get that.
What do you call it?
I call it an inquiry into impeachment because there's a possibility of wrongdoing because the President of the United States is not above the law, and there are certain things that are shady that have gone on here
they're asking,
that could be trouble for him.
And by inquiry, they're asking the question: should Donald Trump be impeached? Is based on what's
right. That's what they're posing the question.
Removed from office.
Brady.
And obviously, I don't think that's going to take place.
Brady, we appreciate the phone call.
Yeah,
Have a good weekend,
Brady.
okay?
Appreciate it.
702.
I think the Civil War is an absolute stretch.
Yes, I mean, and by the way, there are other shows that's the forefront. That is what we're talking about.
That was
people
200 years ago.
Going to pick up arms,
do you realize how you take 50,000 members of the military? You spread them out in every major city where there's going to be some type of civil unrest. Mm-hmm. Their weaponry is twice as powerful as anything that a militia would have. I mean, it would get dropped so fast it would be ridiculous. A civil war is just not going to take place, in my personal opinion. Now, will there be riots in the streets? Will there be specific extremists? It's going to come down to extremist views. Extremists on the left and extremists on the right, whether it's Antifa and whatever those groups are, they'll be in war, and I'm sure there'll be some minor casualties along the way, and innocent people will probably die. But it's not going to be an outright civil war. I don't believe that that's going to take place. We're too far along with technology, and again, the military is too powerful, and it's too easy to move the military around and put them wherever they need to be placed to stop something like this.
Well, to be any type of civil war, right, JD, you got to have an opposition, right? You have to have people out there. So you bring up Antifa. I don't know, what the mass, the majority of the people on the left would get out in the streets if President Trump was impeached or taken out of office or somehow went through some type of criminal proceeding where he ended up incarcerated. And that would cause a civil war, right?
And
as far as the people on the right are concerned.
Even if that were to happen, I don't think a civil war would come of that. And again, I don't think that's going to take place.
702-257-5396. We're talking about this impeachment inquiry going public and what this means as far as polarization in the country and your thoughts on that out there. Let's get Wilfrey on the line here. Wilfrey, thanks for calling the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Wilfrey?
Well, I'm not sure I know where to begin, but we'll give it a shot. But first, let me identify myself, okay? You guys are Trump haters disguised as a variety talk show. And what amazes me is
I'm not a Trump hater, Wilfrey. I'm a never Trumper. I'm not a Trump hater. I'm a never Trumper. And JD is not. By the way, JD is not a Trump hater by any stretch of the imagination.
I disagree with him.
And look, full disclosure, Wilfrey. Full disclosure. I heard your diatribe that you went on last night with Pat on Steve's show, and it was I understand. Look, you got all kinds of fired up talking about how Brian should be booted off and all this stuff, and you were going on a complete tangent as far as getting just absolutely. I thought you were gonna your head was gonna pop off how steamed up you were getting talking to Pat about the Vegas Take. And look, I mean, you have your opinions, they're strong, that's fine. But we are an open forum, and we are a show that lets everybody have their opinion. And so that's why that's why. Look, Wilfrey, you're having an opportunity to be on the show here and express your views. Okay, unlike some other shows that I'm not going to name.
So I've got 6 words out before you jump in. Now, can I finish what I was saying? Or
you called us Trump haters. You called us all Trump haters, so we have to respond to that.
Wilfrey, you called me a Trump hater, and I'm not a Trump hater.
Can I start over and finish my statement?
Okay.
Get more than 6 words in. All right. Now, I consider you people to be Trump haters disguised as a variety talk show. Now, here's what bothers me about this. Okay, one is to see this type of scenario begin to emerge, and the other is that you're actually quite qualified young men. That's why I came to see you at Rodizio's, whatever, so that I could make a judgment in person.
Rodizio.
So, but you are, in my opinion, you can say anything you want to say, but you're Trump haters, or you're supporting that of Brian. Now, Brian Shapiro is what we call Alan Berg. Have you looked up Alan Berg?
I have not. No.
Look up Alan Berg, an old talk radio shows.
I know who Alan Berg is.
He was a hate talk. He was a hater.
Alan Berg was actually what you just suggested is it might be a problem. What are you trying to say now, Wilfrey? Because Alan Berg, there was a movie made about Alan Berg called Talk Radio.
And I have one quick question for you, Wilfrey.
No, stop. Have you seen that movie, Wilfrey?
Pardon?
Have you seen Talk Radio, the movie?
No, I haven't. But
okay.
I was talking to some older men.
Okay. Well, Alan Berg was basically the premise. I mean, he's the reason why that movie was made. And what you're suggesting to me is an issue. So why exactly are you making parallels with Brian Shapiro and Alan Berg?
Well, because we've never heard such viciousness, such lying, vicious, bullying. We've never seen a degree of anything like this. He calls people's names, insults their families. You bring deviants and perverts on your show. And we're trying to say, wait a minute, JD sounds nice. And we realize you're really support for him, JD.
What are you talking about?
Now, respectfully, I want to tell you something. JD, I like you, and I think you have a great family. But none of my Republican friends would let Brian Shapiro say the nasty, vile things he says to people. We'd be in his face every 3.5 seconds. To sit there next to this man and let him say the things he does, in my opinion, if you're a Republican, like I'm a I don't know what you call me, level 7/4/8, I guess. I'm a right winger, but the point is, I don't know where you fit in, but you certainly wouldn't fit into my group to let a man say that, to call a man's son a scumbag. You don't attack children. You don't attack the children of men and women. Okay. My point is that, JD, I'm very disappointed where you're at.
Well, you're suggesting that I should be getting in my co-host's face on a consistent basis.
The villainous.
Actually, physically, nearly physically assaulting my co-host on a consistent basis, and you think that that's a smart way to operate?
I didn't say physically.
Well, Wilfrey,
you said 3 feet or 3.5 seconds, right in his face. That's what you mean. If I got in my co-host's face,
the comments that this man makes are so vicious, so vile, so disparaging.
They're not, Wilfrey. They're not. Name one thing. Can you name one thing? By the way, I got to defend Brian here.
Absolutely.
Wilfrey, name one thing. Wilfrey, let me ask you a question real quick, Wilfrey, because we don't have much time. Name one thing that Brian Shapiro has said on this air that's not true. Name one thing where he has called out people's kids, like you say. He said vile things about. All he said is that he doesn't like Donald Trump. He thinks Donald Trump is a horrible person. He thinks that's all he says. That's like the worst thing he said.
He does
he's
called on a consistent basis.
Yeah, on a consistent basis. But name, Wilfrey, can you name one thing that Brian Shapiro has lied about on this show that's incorrect, that's not factual? Name one thing.
So if I might,
you can't. You can't name one thing. Wilfrey,
this is where Brian hangs up on.
No. Well, we have to hang up because we're short on time, Wilfrey. But look, I asked you a question, simple question. You couldn't give me an answer, and this is the deal. Look, you want to get on here and you want to bash Brian Shapiro, okay? The guy doesn't come on the air and lie. He has an opinion. It's a strong opinion, but he doesn't come on and say things that are not true.
And let's
be
honest.
JD, am I wrong? Am I wrong here?
I don't think that you are incorrect here. And Brian Shapiro he's my co-host. He is my friend, and I'm not going to get in his face and disagree with him and threaten to physically assault him or physically intimidate him because he disagrees with me. You know what that is definition of? Fascism, Will. And right now you sound like a effing fascist. Grow up.
It's a Friday edition, the Vegas Take. I'm Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro along with JD Sharp. More on the other side after this.